It's an extremely interesting time for Sony. We've got a major story today, essentially a leak about a big new plan that they've got for game demos, which, for users, could actually be pretty damn brilliant. They're also getting new top-level staff to push them onto PC, but we found out a little bit of the reason why in recent quarters, and a bit of a change of pace, they've actually been losing out to Xbox in terms of unit sales. So, to dive into it then, first thing is their plan to essentially bring back the idea of the PS1 demo disc.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting spin on it, but ultimately, you used to subscribe to a magazine for a couple quid a month, you'd get a couple of demo discs. The same feel, the same idea of, hey, on PlayStation, you can try out games before you buy them. That is now planned to come back, but in a way that has a lot of people quite pissed off.
So, Game Developer have basically reported that Sony are forcing developers to make time-limited trials, right? So this is very much a feature that they have, so to be on, you need to be in compliance with their feature list. Now, there are some important caveats. So it applies to any game with a wholesale price of $34 or above. So clearly trying to target... Well, I think some of the premium indies would still be hit by that, but they're missing out most indies there, targeting the companies with more resources. Yeah. These trials need to be at least 2 hours long, which is quite interesting. That's a decent slice of a game, and this could be quite interesting for the developer side of things. Also, they've got to be on the store within 3 months of the game's launch and remain available for a year. And then the funky bit, these are only going to be available for customers on PS Plus Premium. That is the highest tier that costs $18 a month or $120 a year. Now, developers can just put up a demo instead of a time-limited trial, and that's something Sony say that they will, well, reportedly anyway, do on a case-by-case basis. And it's a pretty interesting thing, because clearly here you could say that for the developer this is a whole bunch of extra work that they're not really being compensated on, when then for Sony, they, of course, get to offer 2 hours of all the various different games just included. And if you look at something like EA Play, one of the things that EA tried to market, that they really wanted to have be a selling point there, was the 2 hour trial.
Yeah, it was the...
Well, not 2 hours,
times
10
went
hours.
up to 10 hours for
Mass Effect Andromeda was the one that very notably got goofed on with its trial period.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is interesting because it is very much a direct approach to, okay, well, now you've said it as, 2 hours of every, big game. That means that it's technically, if you don't really play more than 2 hours, it now beats Game Pass. In that way, you now have access to everything for free.
Yeah.
Every single game that's above that price point, which, given that it's wholesale $34, it probably means $40 and above at retail. And that's just every single AAA game you now get to give 2 hours to see if you like it or not, at obviously the cost of being on premium.
Yeah, and that's wild. There's a high chance you're going to be on premium if that is the platform that you're really dedicated to playing games on. And the idea then that you could just sample all the AAA games is incredible. Yeah, and I think we're getting a little bit better nowadays, but especially if this was a feature maybe 6 or 7 years ago, how many, for anyone watching, how many purchases would you have avoided if you'd been able to play a game for 2 hours before you've been, actually putting down those $60? Yeah. Because obviously that's a thing where over on Steam, the 2 hour refund window is really, really good for people. And now that's kind of their version of this, which is really interesting. Yeah, or indeed how many games would you have actually bought because you didn't have enough confidence, you wanted to try out a new genre, and you weren't able to. Yep. So I guess for the players, a lot of this is quite great. I mean, you can try before you buy to actually see if you want a game. The other side of this, of course, is discoverability for games. You can feel as an example, the new Lego game gets a whole bunch of positive press. Yep. And then you're like, okay, well, I don't know. Lego game doesn't really seem like my thing, but people are calling it Devil May Lego. Okay, maybe I'll get a 2 hour trial. That could very much convert into a sale. Now, the obvious win here for Sony is that this ups you to $120 a year in your annual value as a customer, which is awesome because that's $120 that, in part is being earned by a whole bunch of work the developers are doing and not getting compensated for.
Yep, absolutely.
So, pretty awesome. that side's pretty awesome. Awesome
Yeah.
for you if you're on that tier. Awesome for Sony.
That's the awkward part where it's like, I think I mentioned this before a long time ago, but like there's a triangle of different incentives in the industry. There's the consumer, there's the developer, and there's the publisher. And in this case, it's like, kind of choose two. You choose two that is good for, and a lot of the times, a lot of things have chosen publisher and developer, so they get all the consumers get the sharp end of the stick. But this time, it's like, oh, now the publisher and consumer are going to benefit, whereas the developer might kind of lose out a little bit in a couple ways. But for consumers, it's like that's a hell of a win to get it, honestly.
Yeah. And it is just funny that we've had this in Steam for free.
Yeah.
Just with their refund policy. Like, yeah, it's different. You put some of your money on the line first. But it is just kind of funny that at least the part of this that you could see as a consumer protection is already dealt with.
Yeah.
And, you don't have to skill upset. You don't really have to pay for that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think like in terms of how users are going to engage with this is way different. Obviously, you've got the same because these trials are likely going to be like kind of, I don't want to say lazily built, but it'll likely be here, download the full game, and we'll just cut you off arbitrarily after 2 hours, or after hitting a certain part that we've deemed as 2 hours of gameplay. So that's like one thing where you're still going to have to download them. That's still going to take time. That's still a decision. You still get your hard drive space to worry about. If you've got data caps, that's you kind of shit out of luck for these. But in terms of like, you don't have to put money down. It's not like, oh, I'll put my money down and then take it back if I don't like it. It's now, I'm just sitting here. I have to leave in like an hour and a half. I don't really want to play any like games that I have. I'll try something new. And it's like that barrier of like putting the money down's gone. And I think that means people probably engage with it a lot more. Whereas it's more of like a defensive play from Steam. This is like
Absolutely.
an aggressive play from PlayStation. And I think that's cool.
The thing then is, can demos actually be bad for publishers and developers? And if so, why are we doing one in actually technically a few days?
Yes.
So let's get into that. Now, there are developers that are pissed that they're basically just being forced to do a whole bunch of extra work. Right? And they could maybe even think, hang on. If this does come to pass, then in the past we just put our game in the PlayStation Store. Now we have to put it on the store and develop a 2-hour trial. And we're getting nothing from that, even though the ability to do that for our game is now a marketing point for Sony's pricing. Yeah. You would almost want it's odd, you'd almost want a like YouTube premium style thing where you get like a little bit of a kickback if people just kind of play your trial as a part of the sub. It is quite strange. And then the other side is some data about demos and whether they are good or bad. Now, this is data from the 360 era.
Yeah, so it's pretty old.
What game is this?
Oh, this is an average of games across from the market research group. They basically went over like, okay, so are demos good or bad? They looked at all of like the 360 and the PS3, and for the 360 specifically, that's where we've got numbers because this is like industry stuff. You can't just easily access it. But this person did give this. I can't remember where it was. It was like it was one of the convention things for game developers. It wasn't GDC, but something like that. And they said, okay, so for games that have a trailer only on the 360, they sold an average of 525,000 in 6 months. If you had a demo and a trailer, that average dropped to 250,000. If you had neither, it was 100,000. So demos, generally speaking, according to this data, turned more people off than they did actually convert to, oh, I'll try this game, oh, I like it, oh, I've bought it.
Well, there's a few things that I would wonder there.
Yeah.
Like, what's the data set?
Yeah, that's the thing where
Because-
it's just cumulative across a bunch of stuff.
And a great example there is AAA games tend to have a trailer only and no demo.
Yeah.
Therefore, do they just drag that number up?
Yeah, that's the thing where it's very difficult to understand if this is actually meaningful data. Obviously, it was the people who did it were called EDAR, and now they are under the MPD group as MPD Games. So like their methodology traditionally is fairly sound, but this is just like a little bit of data pulled out of nowhere to kind of almost sell a point of demos. Have your sales, don't do them.
Yeah.
So it's a bit kind of iffy, but this is one of the things like whenever I was looking for like developers talking about this on Steam and stuff, saying, okay, well, what is demos? How do demos work for us? Are they good? Are they bad? And a lot of stuff was pointing at this data as like, no, this is what people generally talk about in terms of they are bad for this specific circumstance.
See, that's interesting because there's obviously a reason why we're doing a demo.
Yeah.
I think many of Fellow Travelers, who's our publisher, many of their catalog also are doing demos as part of Lud and Archon.
Yeah.
And the conventional wisdom is basically a demo. Now, a time-limited demo, which is the thing that's being done here. That is good for basically rallying support, and it's good for discoverability within niches.
Yep.
And I think that's maybe the important bit here. In the days of the 360, we didn't have that degree of game discoverability, and we didn't really have as many massively well-developed but siloed niches within algorithms that are good at targeting those niches. So Steam knows exactly what you want to play based on what you play already. The discovery queue is incredible. So whenever Ludinaricon happens, and because that's like a full Steam, like you will see Ludinaricon if you open up Steam, almost 100% if you have ever played narrative games. So that means that Steam can deliver the demo to the group of people who are going to be the most interested in it. I think that's like a fundamental difference here.
Yeah, I feel like this is ultimately, especially because this is like limited to the higher price point, I feel like Sony know this, and this is going to be like a protective measure for consumers to try out the big games, but it's not going to like, they haven't forced this on indies, but I think the thing is that discoverability and indies, like they are the ones that get value from demos, because people go, oh, that looks interesting, I'll give it a try, oh, that's nice, because they have a lot more of that no purchase intention demo. Oh, that becomes purchase intention because you've played a game. You're like, oh shit, that was really cool. I know that's happened to me a bunch of times with the last Next Fest. Yeah. And there's so many games like, oh shit, I now have too many games I want to buy because all of these are really cool and fun. But I think the opposite is the case for AAA, where I think most of this data would have been from, where that's where you're thinking, oh, the marketing's really strong in this. Oh, I'm interested. I have purchase intent. I'll try the demo. Oh, and that purchase intent disappears. Which is why I think this is, ultimately, I think this is going to feel really consumer protective and friendly for people. Obviously, it's locked behind a paywall, so it is it's a marketing ploy for them to get more money in. But I think it is going to result in a lot of people being able to go, do I want the new Ubisoft game? No, I've played it for 2 hours. I don't like this. I bounced off this. Like, imagine having a demo for a Breakpoint on console. That would have saved people a lot of money.
That would. I think that's why this is fascinating to me when these sort of leaks started happening. Yeah. And it's almost what would make me expect that it wouldn't happen. That this plan wouldn't come true. Mm-hmm. Because it just would be so brutal for AAA. And I think AAA often, some AAA games have a really well optimized first 2 hours. Yeah. Other AAA games, you just feel completely assaulted. Yeah. So I think that much is interesting. Yeah. Now, there are some games that are, kind of quite premium indies, maybe a Kenna, Bridge of Spirits, a Plague Tale Innocence, where, that they could fall into this, and that could be a bunch of extra work from development teams that are already having a tough time. And I think any developer who is kind of looking at this, I think they're right to feel, this is great for the customers, sure, but this isn't just for the customers. This is mostly for you, because this isn't a pro-consumer feature of the PlayStation platform. It is a paid feature of your subscription fee. So now you're enlisting me to make your sub fee feel more worthwhile, and I'm not getting anything back from that. Yeah. If anything, there's legacy data that points that this will hurt me. Mm-hmm. And I would just imagine that there will be a degree of pushback from AAA.
You would imagine so. The thing that makes me wonder is that this isn't like a leak of a plan that's heading, that's really, really far down the line. It's apparently this is new policy up on portal sites and stuff that was communicated with basically no communication whatsoever. Sony just showed up one day and went, yep, this is how it works now. So it feels like they're kind of they've drawn the line in the sand and went, no, this is our feature. If you don't want to be on our platform, you don't have to be. And I think that's a little bit of them throwing a lot of their weight around, which I think is, it's kind of risky because all it takes is a couple of big games to play chicken with them and go, maybe we won't release on PlayStation then. And that's where you'll get into a bit of a fight. But if they just kind of go, no, this is the line in the sand for our users, for our premium product, then there's not really much you can do about that. Because obviously, like I said, you're playing chicken. If you're like a EA or Ubisoft, you're you don't want this. You can't really deal with the fact that PlayStation's half of your market.
Yeah, and they know that they have, the PlayStation Plus subscriber base is humongous.
Massive.
It is massive.
Yeah.
They really know that it's going to be just incredible if they can convert even a small percentage of them. And any feature like this is going to be important. And a lot of the people who have PS Plus, they ended up getting that because they wanted to play multiplayer games. A lot of those are going to be AAA audiences. I think they'll probably find quite a lot of use in that feature. In fairness, I would as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, personally, I think this is a great feature, and I was on the fence about going for premium. I was definitely going to go for it for at least a month or two, just to see what, like, the classic game side of it was. But now I can see that especially with how I play games when I sit down at the PS5, I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of times I browse the store and go, I would like to play that, but that's 15, 20 quid. I'd like to play that, but that's like 60. Oh, that's a full AAA game. I don't buy many AAA games anymore because they ask for 150 hours of my time and they're not all that engaging the whole way through. So the fact that I could just play like 2 hours of a load of them feels honestly like a huge amount of value to me and would save me a bunch of money. And it's like that kind of, it's almost like the Game Pass thing of having loads of games, but it's more, the fact that it's more AAA targeted by having this high price point is kind of a little bit more, I would feel protected against any of their bullshit.
Totally. That's the thing. Ultimately, it's going to feel great for users.
Yep.
If it ends up coming to pass, we'll just have to...
Yeah.
We'll have to see. Now, there's more going on for Sony. PC and Sony has been an interesting developing story over the last while, and therefore it's interesting that they are hiring a senior director for PC planning and strategy who will deliver a single optimized PC sales growth and commercial plan to hub and territory teams to implement, identifying future sectors and partnerships for commercial growth. And that's basically what they're doing, trying to grow the monthly active users for Sony content on PC and to lead the PC growth strategy. And that's very interesting. It's very interesting. They've dabbled to pretty damn great success in PC. Yes. They can show up with a game multiple years late and get incredible sales, especially in the case of, say, God of War, where they turn up late, but with an absolutely incredible build of that game.
Yeah, and that's the thing where it's like because that game, it's old enough, right? But we're in that part where games aren't improving quite as sharp as they were before. Where a game from maybe like 6 to 8 years ago doesn't feel that old on PC whenever you have like, sure, some of like the techniques made for texturing and stuff and like modeling might be a little bit out of date compared to what's new, but it still was at that point of, oh, this still looks great, especially when you're running it at 4K or at 1440p and it's running at a solid 60 or even uncapped above that. Like, people don't care about that as much anymore. Obviously, all that like super hyper graphics is good for the console market for like getting the marketing out to the mainstream. But for PC gamers, they're like, is the game fun? Does it run well? I'll absolutely buy it. I think they're actually they're spot on with that. And there's so much of their back catalog they could release here too. Obviously, they struggle with releasing some of it on the PS5 as it is. But you imagine like just like a PlayStation event. And, you know, there's your Ape Escape, there's your Gravity Rush, there's your God of War, there's your Horizon, there's Days Gone, of course, is there. There's even, like, some of the Ratchet & Clanks. That would just explode on Steam, honestly.
Yeah.
So I think that's the... Actually, you know what? There's your optimized PC sales growth and commercial plan, Sony. Release games on PC. Good job. Bloodborne 60 FPS, there you go. 400 trillion sales.
That would totally happen.
Yep.
Imagine Bloodborne with good frame timing. Insane.
Yep.
So it's good to see that they're going more into this. Obviously, we're kind of both primarily PC gamers, so very much to our tastes, and I imagine yours too if you are watching this on a PC after all. Now then, another great thing. There's been a lot of negative sentiment regarding Sony in respect to the legacy catalog, issues with legacy stores not really working. Another fun thing with seemingly a server just going a little bit rogue and screwy and that leading to license problems with their games. All these things that I would say are not important to their core business, ultimately because they're not extremely monetizable, but are not great for their reputation. And we're actually seeing that Sony are setting up a game preservation team. Maybe it's just the case Jim Ryan and the leadership team have thought, you know, they really are saying a lot of things about us in legacy games. Maybe that's not great. So here we go. Garrett Fredley said, today is my first day as a senior build engineer at PlayStation, working on one of their internal hires for the newly created preservation team. That is just a brilliant thing to have happen. We'll just have to wait and see if anything comes from that. Certainly, though, when it comes to preservation in a way that is monetized, I think Sony have a lot to gain there. We're already seeing some of that in the more premium tiers of PlayStation Plus. Now they're getting more of an internal capability to actually match that.
That's a thing where depends on what they mean by preservation, because what Fredley was doing at EA for FIFA was just complete archival of old games. We're like, okay, here's old FIFA games. They will forever run like this. I need to go into actually his, he gave a talk on his work, one of the GDCs, I think, so I need to go into that and see what it could like mean for what they're doing at Sony. But generally it's like, it could be anything from, yeah, we're just going to make sure our games kind of exist and legacy, we can do whatever at any time, or it could be stuff that people would really want, like, oh yeah, here's the PS1 game, here's it running on PC, 4K, 144, 4K frame uncapped, because it's a PS1 game, of course it can run well. Like, that's the stuff they could potentially be doing, but without saying, without saying what they actually do is hard to say. He did say something about emulation, or about, like, people were talking about emulation, because obviously PS3 emulation on PS5's been the big topic. He was like, yeah, there's nothing, I don't really know about that. It's only my second day here. If they're doing something, I'll try to get on it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's at least somewhere between just a response to being called out all day long, or actually a good effort, and anywhere in the middle sounds fine to me.
Yeah, it's nice to see. Really, everything so far today is quite great for people who are playing in the PlayStation platform.
And they're going to need it.
Yeah, so this is the other thing. They're losing ground to Xbox, and it seems to be because of supply issues, right? So this is from NPD's data. It's always great when there's an NPD data release and we just got to go into what's going on in the industry. But what's happened is that video game hardware dollar sales are 24% down versus this time a year ago. The first quarter hardware sales were 1.2 billion, and that was a 15% decline versus Q1 2021. So that's not great in terms of sales, well, dollars and actual number of units. Now for Xbox, well, they were on top in March, and also they were on top for Q1 2022. Of course, you look at the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 5 Digital, and that feels like two permutations of the same product. Yeah. You look at X and S, and that is two different products that take up two different spaces in the market. So I do feel that Xbox are inherently stronger in that they have a far better value play. That, in combination with supply chain stuff, hurting Sony more, I think is really what's going on. And I think as well, from what we understand, the supply chain constraints do not hit the Series S as much as the other competing consoles.
Yeah, as far as we understand, it is literally just the Series S is a less powerful console and has less stuff in it, so they can just make more of them and make more of it for cheaper without relying on the same like high performance parts. And that just means that the Series S is constantly available to buy. And you can obviously look and go, well, that means they're not selling out, that means no one's buying them. But from what people in the industry are saying, obviously not without revealing details that they're not allowed to, they all just go, yeah, no, hardware supply is really bad. The Series S is winning because it's the only one you can buy. And if you want video games, you buy the Series S or the Switch. Those are the two things you can physically buy all the time. Yeah. And that's what happened here.
Yeah, it's incredible. The Nintendo Switch outselling in terms of the number of units the PlayStation 5 in this first quarter. And in terms of Xbox, it's not just that. Xbox, I think, is doing quite well off its own strengths as well. Yeah. Supply chain management is obviously a strength for a customer who wants the damn product. Exactly. But the last time they did this well was during the 360 gen. Of course, the 360 was the console that was on top back then. Sony took the lead, and while Microsoft had a stronger offering this time around, Sony still did have that lead. Now we're beginning to see things change purely just because it's not just because. I think Microsoft's overall strategy plays to Series S availability specifically well because of the Game Pass offer.
Yep, definitely.
But basically, the Xbox stuff, they're outselling Sony right now, and it's the best sales they've had since a long time ago, since the last gen. Of course, there's also way more gamers now than there was in the last gen. Even the world population's, increased a bit, since then. So they would have to be beating these. But it's more just the fact that they're playing catch up, and now we're seeing them hit some pretty nice milestones.
Yeah, and they're beating this despite supply constraints.
Yeah.
Because there are supply constraints, it's just not so constrained you can't buy them, which I think is interesting. But it's just that it's that thing where Microsoft have that strength as a business. It's why they can afford Game Pass, because they have all that money, all that expertise. So they can kind of run rings around them in the supply chain as well. Because I can't remember who he was talking to, but Phil Spencer was specifically saying like a lot of his job became supply chain management whenever that fell to shit. And he's like, okay, well, I literally have to spend most of my day figuring out how can we get the parts to make these.
Yeah.
And clearly that's actually working out for them fairly well. It's also interesting. I see people pointing out, just because there's consistently console wars happening every time anyone tweets about anything.
I really thought
it's
they'd
really
simmered
frustrating.
down. And they're getting mad. They're mad. You see some of them on Twitter, and I think some of that could just be the social media effect. There's always morons out there, but if you put a magnifying glass, they seem bigger. Dunno.
Yeah.
Maybe the Digital Foundry comments, like, are they better or worse than usual? Because I'm pretty sure if you want a nice little measure of how fiery the console wars are, it's just run sentiment analysis in Digital Foundry's comment section.
Yeah, so like they're pretty brutal, but I see like all this like, oh well, well, how they've done this without actually having a massive Xbox first party game outside of Halo, which was fairly decent. But I think that's interesting that it's like Xbox's strategy hasn't fully kicked in with their first party dev stuff.
Yeah.
Starfield's out later this year, but that's so far later this year that it's not going to be the mainstream market are paying attention yet, because Starfield hasn't been marketed very hard.
Yeah.
It's like only core gamers and like stuff like that will actually be engaged in that stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how this happens whenever both of them are at full strength fighting each other with first party titles. I think it'll be interesting to see if that just completely changes it, or if it just ends up going one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. So, whilst maybe not the console wars, certainly the console competition is heating up. It's getting more interesting than ever with unique, differentiated product offerings. As soon as we see Sony almost emulate Game Pass, here we are seeing reports of them trying to one-up Game Pass and something. Ultimately, while there could be some rubs for developers and publishers, I think this is all getting better and better for consumers with just more high-quality options. And, of course, for those of us on the PC platform sitting in the middle, we just kind of win from all of it.
Yeah. We're so used to getting like the leftovers, like the scraps from the table, but now because they're getting so intense, the scraps are becoming actual just full meals. So it's like, oh yeah, shit, there's the PC gamers. No one owns them yet. Quick, give them everything we have. We're just like, yes, thank you.
Yeah, totally. So there you go, everybody. That's the situation with the console competition. Let me know then, would this actually be a differentiating factor for you? Would you be willing to move to the PlayStation platform and instead of getting the minimum PS Plus, getting the maximum PS Plus with the knowledge that you could just try any AAA before you buy? Is that something that actually would have value to you? Let us know in those comments. And with that said, we'll see you next time.